Do you ever feel like you just need to escape, get out there, be free? Well, that's how the guinea pigs felt this week. Temperatures in the UK reached a staggering 40 degrees Celsius for the first ever time in our little country. So the question on all our minds is, did the guinea pigs cope with all this? And what should we be aware of when it comes to extreme heat and our own piggies? Well, let's find out. Okay, so what was the heat like? Well, for us here up in the north of England, Tuesday was the hottest day for us this week, and it kind of built up temperature-wise on the Monday. And normally what I would do when it gets hot is leave the piggies in their room, have the windows open, but have the mesh curtains closed to keep the majority of the sunlight and the heat out. However, it didn't really work this week. I had to keep the windows closed because the air itself was so hot, and I also had to keep the main curtains closed just to try and stop any sun getting in the room at all. Even with that, it was still so hot, so we had to put in some other measures in place, some that I'll talk through in a bit. And I was also really glad to see a lot of promotion and awareness online of what to do in these conditions for our guinea pigs and what to do to help cool them down. Do you want your stuff then? You're wondering where everything's gone except for random bits of cardboard? Phoebe's just like, what? Oh, don't go down there. That is the sheep guardian. He stops all entry to behind the TV, and piggies so far haven't been able to get past him, so I think he's doing a fairly decent job. Ultimately, as I did say, we had to move the piggies out of their normal room, but that was kind of exceptional circumstances. And in the meantime, where it doesn't get quite as hot, but it definitely gets hot, then there are lots of tips and tricks you can do to make them more comfortable and keep them cool in this weather. And yes, I know the latest heat wave has kind of passed for us here in the UK at least, maybe not in Europe. I'm not sure about America, let me know in the comments below, but there will be more. We're set to have plenty more heat waves in the future. So firstly, if you don't have aircon, then do what you can to try and make the room as cool as possible. This might be opening or closing the windows depending on what the actual air temperature's like. It could be leaving the curtains closed like I've done. You might choose to have a fan or something going to keep air circulating around the room and make it cooler that way. And if your piggies are outside, whether they're in the sun or the shade, my recommendation is please bring them inside. There are far too many terribly sad stories of piggies that have got heat stroke outside that owners haven't realised in time and they've passed away. And especially if you're going to be away, out during the day, then please consider bringing them indoors. Next up, I had heard about giving them a cool tile that they can lie on, and I tried this with my piggies in the past, but it didn't really work. They would just sort of sniff it and lick it and be like, why? But this time it was hot enough and it really did work. Roxy especially loved lying on the tile, so it was kind of nice to see her doing that and using that. And I put the tile underneath one of their hammocks without the hammock bit in it, so it kind of had a little canopy over it, and I think they liked it better that way. So that leads us on to the next thing, which is to think about the accessories you've got in the cage. And let's be honest, guinea pigs aren't the smartest of creatures, and they cannot resist a tunnel, even better a cozy fleece tunnel, even when it's absolutely sweltering outside. So take out cozy beds, cozy tunnels, cozy sacks, things that they're going to go in, stay in and overheat in. So I took everything like that out of the cage except for a couple of open beds, and I replaced it with things like my wooden archway, my wooden house. If you've got plastic houses, take those ones out as well. You should have just nice wooden things in the cage I just literally missed it. Phoebe! Oh, Phoebe, you're so naughty. Look what she did to the Guardian. Pedro, you can't go back there. It's not safe. He's being upgraded. So number 3 is using cool wet towels that have been wrung out, so they're not sopping wet, they are just sort of damp to the touch. And my piggies really liked these. They used them a lot. I could tell that they were trying to kind of get the coolness off them, because they would sort of go up to the towel if I had it draped over the side of something, and they'd try to like nuzzle into it, and eventually they'd sort of form a little pocket with them like wrapped up inside the towel. So it was quite funny to watch. Even just laying them on the ground, the piggies like to sit on top of them and just cool their feet down that way. My next tip is to provide extra water. You might think that your piggies don't like drinking out of a water bowl and they'll just use the bottles, which might be the case, but if you provide bowls of water around the cage, that water's going to evaporate. If you've got some fan or something going to circulate the air, then it is going to help cool the air down in that room. And also, you might be surprised and find that your guinea pigs actually do test out the water and drink out of the water bowls, even if they haven't done before. So it's a great way to encourage them to stay hydrated when it's so hot out. And the final thing I did that worked for us was on an individual basis. So if you have certain piggies that look to be suffering more than others, or if you just want to go ahead and do it with everyone, that's fine. But what I did with Pedro, he's just staring at me. Hi buddy, you know I'm talking about you. Did you hear your name? So with Pedro, I actually got some cool, not freezing cold, just cool water in my hands, and I kind of started off by wetting his ears a bit because they do use their ears to thermoregulate, and I did that with the ears, and then kind of you can go out from along the coat from there, and we're not talking soaking them, making them really wet, but just dampening it down a little bit, and as that water dries and evaporates, it will take some of the heat away. That wasn't my last one. I just checked my list and there is one more. This is when I got the big guns out, and this is what I thought would really work. And it was getting a 2-litre bottle, sticking it in the freezer, putting it in a pillowcase because I thought that was a nice kind of thin fabric, and then plonking that in the cage and seeing what happened. But they definitely didn't seem to lie up against it and be thinking, ah, this is nice. They just ignored it basically. So it could be something to try. I'm sure it's definitely good at cooling down a certain area of the cage, but my piggies didn't seem that interested. I literally don't know where they've gone. That scary moment when you lose your piggies. Oh no. We've had a breach. Oh, it's because I shut the door. Basically, the best strategy I've found if this happens with your piggies is to try and lure them out of their own accord. Excuse me. Yes, would you like to come out, please? Because... Thank you. That's one. One then, please. On a serious note, I do just want to go over some of the signs of heat stroke in guinea pigs, which is basically when their internal temperature gets too hot, they can't cool themselves down. And the first sign is not really that helpful because it is also a sign of piggies just being warm and lazy, and that is them being lethargic. So they're just lying around, they're kind of trying to stay cool by just splooting out and becoming a blob. But I think what the difference is really for heat stroke is when they can't or don't want to get up and move. Now they might be unwilling to, but if they almost appear like they can't physically lift their head, they can't stand up, then that's where things are getting serious. Other signs of heat stroke are things like drooling, panting, some piggies get diarrhea, and when it's really bad, even seizures. So if your piggies have any of these these signs, then you need to get them to the vet and get them emergency help, because it is a really serious situation. One of the things that I found really interesting to read about was the temperature at which it gets too hot for our pigs. And this is actually 27 degrees Celsius, which is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which to me anyway sounds quite low. I kind of think of hot as 30 degrees. So the fact that it's less than that, and it could well be within the normal range and not really a temperature classed as a heat wave, especially as everywhere is getting hotter as the years go by, then I think that's quite low. And then we've also got to remember that for Pedro is just, hi, I know, look at that lettuce mustache. So we've also got to remember that all piggies are different, and if we have piggies that have an existing health condition or older piggies, then that 27 degrees might even be lower for them. And also we've got to remember that the temperature inside their hutch or their cage is not necessarily the same temperature as outside in the garden or what the weather forecast is telling us. That is its own little area, and they can't escape out of that area. Well, unless they're magic teleporting guinea pigs like we saw earlier in the video, but they can't get out of there without your help. So be aware of your individual piggies and also the temperature inside their hutch or cage versus outside of it. You want to say hello? Aww, hey, sausage. Okay guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the piggies out for floor time. And if you want to hear more tips and tricks and also see what happened when the piggies went out for an entire day of floor time, then I will pop up this video here for you to watch next. But that is all from us for now. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one. Bye bye.